Well, we just learned how to achieve even wash, even flat wash by using the water bead technique. Now, water bead can be also used throughout the entire drawing of the watercolor. So I am going to introduce you two examples. The first one is not recommended because that will be the common mistakes the beginners always do. And the second example will show you the correct way of making the watercolor using the water beads as an indicator to achieve, again, transparency and also nice and even wash on the painting. So I'm going to make a simple sketch to facilitate the demonstration. So say in our watercolor painting, we have many different objects. And we want to achieve the underpaint nicely, right? So especially when we're trying to paint the background. So when we paint the background, we paint outside of the object. And when we paint outside of the object, we call it negative painting. If we paint inside the object, right, the object themselves, then it is called positive painting. So now, I want to demonstrate the first example, which is not recommended. Again, not recommended. Why? This is what the beginners would do. They are being too careful of not to paint over the objects. So they do the outline first, right? Just like the way we cut in for the door jambs. We paint at home, our door, our walls, right? We cut in the baseboard. We cut in the window frames, right? So they would do the same thing for the objects that they want to paint. With all the good intention though, they want to make very nice drawings. So they're being very careful, and they go around the border or the perimeters of the objects, as well as many of them also go around the frame of the picture so that they make sure they have a nice crisp edge around the painting, right? So once the border is done, then they trying to start painting, right? They try painting, and as they paint again, they try so hard to avoid the border and incur so many of the random short strokes, right? And either they don't preload the paint enough, or they just being too careful again, right? So many times, as they paint, they realize they run out of watercolor, so they have to dip into the tray and start mixing color again. And by mixing the color, while you're mixing the color, the paint on the paper starts to dry. So now that they see when it starts to dry, you can see the surface looks really ugly And because they see it's not even, so there's also a temptation to go back and fill in the area that they don't like and hope that it will flow eventually. But I can tell you, once the watercolor dry, it's not going to flow, right? Simple as that. It's not going to, right? So this is a very, very typical example of the students or the new beginners, the watercolor, they do. So now they look at the entire thing and say, well, I may not like certain area because it's not even. So they went back many times. They keep filling the gaps, making sure that it's a perfection that can be achieved. But you know what? It's too late. And you can see when it's dry, the background, the negative painting area, has a lot of streaks and uneven strokes of the watercolor paint left on the surface. And you can also see the borders seems to be much darker, and they don't look natural. They kind of, you kind of draw lines around the object, and not those lines there, the perimeters there, they will never disappear. They'll stay, and that makes the entire watercolor painting so awful. So then you say, well, what is better way to handle this kind of situation then? Well, again, remember the last session that we learned how to achieve the even flat wash by controlling the water beads. Now, water beads is our friend, not just in the flat wash requirement, but also it is our friends during execution of the entire painting. So what I mean that is, as we go around, we paint, we also use watercolor beads. So since we are doing a lot of painting, so I'm trying to preload a whole bunch of paint, that to ensure me that I don't have to go back and reload every time. Because every time I reload, the surface of the painting is going to dry. And if I apply any paint on a dry surface, it's going to end up this. So now I have enough paint loaded on my palette, right? So what do? So I still have to go through, because I still do the negative painting. I need to make sure that that the object is protected. So now, for every stroke, I must see the water beads, right? Because with the water beads, I can assure that I have an even wash, right? So you see water beads here, right? So if I continue applying water beads, applying paint, and enough of a flow, and when I do this, of course, it's important that to have my painting or draw the paper on the angle. So once I have a water beads, do I really have to restrict myself that I must go horizontal or vertical or any direction consistently? The answer is no, as long as I got the water beads. So good experienced painter always leave the water bead as such before they go to other object. Right? So once we go to other object, we also want to always keep an eye on other area to see if the water bead is still there. If it's not there, I want to make sure, adapt it and make sure that it's wet enough so that I can buy some time while I'm painting different area. See, now I'm going to different area and I want to make sure the water beads continue to flow. So this area is a little bit dry, so I'm going to tap a little bit of the watercolor. Okay? So make sure that I still have water beads around it while I paint the other one. Again, when I paint the other object, my eye always keep on other area that I just left. Make sure that the water bead is still active. So once it's still active, all I need is to go randomly around it by hitting the water beads and making sure that the subsequent stroke, I still leave a water beads around it, right? So it can flow nicely. So look, I just finished the drawing of the same, but using slightly different technique. Right? So you see, let's compare the top drawing and the bottom drawing. The top drawing left a lot of streaks of the brush stroke and also border. And also the entire under paint in the negative painting area, it looks dull because it's kind of overworked and it doesn't have enough of water to push the paint around. Right? While the second painting here, you can see the background is so nice and even. The color looks so fresh and also even and looks transparent. And around the object, I don't see borders as the top drawing, right? So what do I achieve? How? Remember controlling the water bead, right? As you paint in a different area, you want to make sure that the area that you already painted has some kind of water beads. And that will be an indicator for you when to go back and dab a little bit more of a different paint to allow you time to continue to go around your painting. That's number one. Number two is you want to make sure how you push the water bead. You push from the wet area to the dry area. 把湿的地方推出没有湿的地方。And also make sure that the board is on the angle 30 degrees, allow gravity to pull the paint down. You see, first example, second example, it's all about technique, and you can see the outcome is significantly different. So hope this helped you along with your watercolor painting by controlling the water bead.